11:59. Midnight. Diane called my name. Felicia presenting divorce papers. Tyler narrated for his stream. Dad's getting destroyed on camera. I retrieved the binder from beneath the counter. £8. I signed 6 months ago. Everything you think you're getting went to charity 72 hours ago. Free way to support this channel. Tap subscribe. Thank you. I grew up in Cleveland, in a neighborhood where my father managed Hendrick's Hardware on East 85th, and my mother kept the books at our kitchen table after dinner. First-generation college student. Ohio State accepted me with partial scholarship, which meant campus jobs and ramen dinners to cover the rest. Actuarial science. Most people had never heard of it. Still haven't. My roommate thought I was studying to be an actuary, whatever that was. I explained it once. Calculating risk, modeling probabilities, protecting people from financial catastrophe through mathematics. He nodded like he understood, then asked if that was like accounting. Junior year, I tutored calculus in the library study rooms. $15 an hour, cash. Diane's roommate needed help passing statistics. 101. That's how we met. She arrived in a cashmere sweater that probably cost more than my monthly food budget, carrying a leather planner with color-coded tabs. Sorority president. Dean's list in communications. The kind of person who remembered the janitor's daughter's name and asked about her soccer games. Her roommate would fail the midterm despite my help. But Diane kept showing up to study sessions. We married at 23. I had $807 in savings and student loans. She had a marketing degree and connections at the country club where her parents held membership. The wedding was small, 17 people on my side, counting my roommate and 2 work colleagues. Diane's side filled 6 rows. I took a junior actuary position at Midwestern Life and Casualty. Started at $42,000 salary, which felt like wealth after 4 years of campus poverty. Diane began volunteering on country club committees, building the social network that would become her parallel life. The pattern established itself early. I calculated mortality tables and loss ratios in a cubicle on the 7th floor. She hosted charity luncheons and served on the decorating committee. My colleagues respected my work. Her friends admired her taste. We existed in separate orbits that intersected mainly at dinner and in bed. Amber arrived 2 years into the marriage. Diane chose private pediatricians and the nursery furniture from the boutique on Shaker Square. I ran the numbers, adjusted our budget, made it work. Amber asked questions about everything. Why did Daddy's calculator have no buttons? I showed her my 1965 Pickett N600Es, let her move the slide herself, watched her eyes light up when the scales aligned. Tyler came 3 years later. He wanted to understand my work, asked to visit the office, drew pictures of me at my desk with papers everywhere. I framed one, kept it on my credenza for years. I rose through the firm methodically. Associate Actuary at 28, Senior Actuary at 32, Vice President at 37, Chief Actuary at 45. Each promotion brought salary increases. I immediately invested in property. 2001, the market correction. Purchased the lakeside estate for $380,000, 30% below comparable sales. Fixer-upper with good bones. Spent 18 months renovating it myself on weekends. Project managing contractors, calculating cost-benefit ratios for every upgrade decision. Diane transformed it into her showcase. The great room hosted charity galas. The deck overlooked the lake where her friends gathered for summer parties. She spent $85,000 on furniture and landscaping. I paid the invoices without comment. Downtown corridor properties came next. Commercial buildings purchased during the 2008 crisis when values collapsed. Bought 6 properties for $1.2 million total. Held them through the recovery. Watched them appreciate to $3.2 million over 12 years. My professional life centered on protecting high net worth families. Divorce, death, disability. I modeled catastrophic scenarios, structured complex instruments to shield assets across multiple contingencies. Clients paid premium fees for my expertise. Colleagues invited me to present at actuarial conferences. Published papers in industry journals. The firm promoted my work in client presentations. I built a reputation for precision that extended beyond our regional office. Amber and Tyler never visited that office. Diane attended one company dinner in 20 years, left early claiming a headache. When colleagues asked about my family, I showed them the framed drawing Tyler made when he was 6. The children's transformation happened gradually. The shift happened Amber's freshman year. She brought friends home once, saw my slide rule collection, and never invited anyone over again. Tyler's admiration became performative mockery. The shift felt natural at the time, just normal development. Their calls followed a pattern around their college years. "Hi, Dad. How are you? Listen, I need to talk to you about something." Amber called, needing $8,000 for a study abroad program. Tyler needed $12,000 for a car after he wrecked the one we'd bought him. I wrote the checks, told myself this was what parents did. The requests escalated. Tyler called about a cryptocurrency venture. Needed $15,000 in startup capital. Failed within 4 months. Amber called about a real estate investment opportunity with her business school classmate. Needed $50,000. The deal never materialized. I documented every transfer in my personal ledger, noted the pattern, said nothing. Diane's spending grew proportional to my income. Country club dues increased to $2,400 monthly. Her wardrobe budget exceeded my annual salary from 20 years earlier. Charity galas required new gowns, jewelry, donations that bought her committee positions and social standing. I spent evenings in my home office with the vintage slide rule collection, calculating compound interest on a 1957 Kuffel and Esser that could hit 4 significant figures without a battery. 73 instruments dating from 1923 to 1975, displayed on custom walnut shelving. My 1957 Kuffel and Esser log-lob duplex Diesetrig could calculate to 4 significant figures, the same precision that built the Apollo program. I used it daily for basic calculations, finding satisfaction in mechanical precision that digital tools couldn't replicate. The physical movement of the slide, the tactile feedback, the requirement to understand mathematical principles rather than just push buttons. Tyler filmed a video mocking the collection. Cringe boomer hobby tool with calculator dad. Got 47,000 views. The comments section filled with skull emojis and variations of "Okay, boomer." One comment with 2,400 likes. My dad has the same energy. Divorced, now okay. He showed me the video proudly, expecting me to appreciate the engagement metrics. Margaret Cho became my estate attorney in 1995. 28 years of annual reviews, trust updates, beneficiary designations. Petite Korean-American woman in navy suits who served traditional tea during meetings and spoke in precise legal terminology. She watched my family's entitlement grow alongside my portfolio, suggested protective measures during our sessions in her precise legal terminology, irrevocable trusts, beneficiary designation strategies, asset protection mechanisms. I nodded, took her recommendations home, filed them in a drawer. Their family, I told her. Diane and I have been married 23 years. She nodded, made notes in her leather portfolio, never pushed. My professional expertise centered on calculating divorce probability. Actuarial models that predicted marital dissolution with 87% accuracy based on demographic factors, spending patterns, communication frequency, shared activities. I avoided running the numbers on my own marriage for years. When I finally did, late one night after Diane had gone to bed early again, the model flagged 17 risk indicators. Input the variables. Communication frequency down 67% over 5 years, shared activities reduced to holiday dinners, spending patterns diverging. High probability dissolution scenario within 5 years. 91% confidence interval. I closed the spreadsheet, deleted the file, told myself the data didn't account for loyalty or history or the life we built together. Actuarial tables don't lie. I knew that professionally. I ignored it personally, until Thanksgiving changed everything. Thanksgiving morning, I stood in the lake house kitchen at 6:47 a.m., preparing a 23-pound turkey according to the same method I'd used for 17 years. I measured the cavity temperature with a digital thermometer. 325 degrees. Same as the 17 previous years. Amber arrived at 11,005 with Jordan, her husband. She carried a leather portfolio to Thanksgiving dinner. Jordan wore business casual, checking his phone every 90 seconds. Tyler showed up at 11,043 with his girlfriend Madison. Camera equipment visible through the guest room doorway as they settled upstairs. He was filming something. Always filming. Diane orchestrated the meal with her usual precision, directing me to carve while she arranged sides on serving platters. The table looked like a magazine spread. Her Instagram followers would appreciate the composition. Tyler set down his fork halfway through the meal. "This is actually pretty good, Dad." "Thanks," I said. Amber glanced at Jordan. "The turkey's always perfect. Dad's very precise about measurements." "Runs in the family," Jordan said, though I wasn't sure what he meant by that. I ate turkey and calculated the cost per person of the meal I'd funded. But 3:17 p.m., I walked past the guest room carrying empty serving dishes to the kitchen. The door stood slightly ajar. Amber's voice carried into the hallway. "The Maple Street building is what we need. Jordan needs it for the development deal." I stopped outside the guest room. The dishes clinked as my grip tightened. Tyler's voice. "How much is that one worth?" "Dad paid $400,000 in 2009. Current market value is $1.2 million. We flip it to Jordan's partnership for $900,000. Below market. They get the anchor property cheap, we get immediate liquidity." I stood in my own hallway, listening to my daughter discuss selling my property to her husband. At a loss. "What about the old man?" Tyler asked. "He's not just going to hand over buildings." Amber laughed. "He will if we frame it right. Early inheritance. Tax advantages. Helping family." Dad responds to logical arguments. Jordan's voice joined them. "The downtown corridor properties are the priority. If we can get those 6 buildings, the whole development pencils out." I heard papers rustling. Tyler shifted. I heard the camera click on. His voice changed, performative. So, here's the thing, guys. The old man's portfolio is worth like $8 million, but he's too scared to monetize it properly. Just sits on these properties, collecting minimal rent when the flip potential is insane. The casual dismissal in his voice. The old man. My son, narrating my financial incompetence to strangers on the internet. I picked up the dishes, walked to the kitchen, washed them with methodical precision while my hands operated independently of my thoughts. The next morning, I'd slept 3 hours. Diane had left for tennis before I came downstairs. Amber and Jordan left early. Tyler and Madison slept until noon. I went upstairs to strip the guest room beds. The printer on the desk showed a document in the output tray. 23 pages. Color-coded, professionally formatted. Harrington property portfolio, liquidation analysis, and timeline. I sat on the bed. Read every page. 47 tabs of data, summarized here. Every building I owned. Purchase price. Current valuation. Comparable sales. Projected flip value. Contractor cost estimates. Pro forma income statements for each conversion. The downtown corridor properties, valued at $3.2 million total, were highlighted in red. Priority. Jordan's development anchor. Each property had a ranking. Color-coded priority system. Green for immediate transfer. Yellow for second phase. Orange for hold and monitor. My life's work, reduced to a liquidation spreadsheet my daughter had accidentally left in the printer. I photographed every page with my phone camera. 23 images. Time stamped. 11:23 a.m., November 24th. The pattern escalated over 6 months. December, the country club holiday party. Diane stood with her tennis group near the champagne fountain. I approached with her coat. There's Keith. Completely replaceable, but very reliable. She smiled at her friends. Her friends laughed. I handed her the coat. Diane's being modest, one of them said. We all know she runs that household. Keith just signs the checks. Diane agreed. The important decisions happen at the club. More laughter. I excused myself to the bar. January. Tyler posted a new video. Cringe boomer hobby tour with Calculator Dad. 14 minutes of him filming my slide rule collection with mocking narration. This is a Koffel and Esser from 1957. My dad uses this instead of a phone calculator. I'm not joking. He genuinely prefers this. Close-up of my face as I explained logarithmic scales. Tyler's voiceover. Look at how serious he is. This is painful. The video got 47,000 views. I scrolled through the comments. Your dad is so weird. 2,400 likes. This is painful to watch. 1,800 likes. Okay, boomer energy. 3,200 likes. Tyler showed me the analytics. Pretty good engagement, right? The cringe factor really resonates. I nodded. Opened my laptop, saved the video to my hard drive with timestamp and view count documentation. March, Amber called Tuesday morning. Lunch at the downtown bistro. 1 o'clock. I want to discuss the Maple Street building. She opened a presentation folder, showed me financial projections. Jordan's development group needs an anchor property. I've run the numbers. If you transfer it as early inheritance, the tax advantages work in everyone's favor. I'm 58. I said, early inheritance seems premature. It's strategic planning. She touched my arm, warmth calculated to persuade. You taught me to think ahead. This is me applying your lessons. I'll consider it. Her smile tightened. Jordan's timeline is pressing. The development window closes in 60 days. I'll consider it, I repeated. She left the lunch annoyed. I photographed her presentation materials before returning them, added them to my growing file. April, Diane posted on Instagram. Photo of her tennis group at the club. Caption, about new beginnings and surrounding yourself with people who lift you up. The comments section filled with supportive messages about her bravery. I wasn't tagged, wasn't mentioned, existed only as the funding mechanism for the life she documented online. Each incident, isolated, could be dismissed. Diane was joking. Tyler was creating content. Amber was including me in business opportunities. But I'd spent 35 years calculating patterns, modeling probabilities, identifying risk indicators that others missed. I opened a new file in my actuarial modeling software, created a risk assessment matrix, documented every incident with actuarial precision. November 24, overheard property liquidation discussion. Amber's spreadsheet discovered. Evidence photographed. December 15, country club party. Diane to her tennis group. Within my hearing, completely replaceable. January 8. Tyler's mockery video posted. 47,000 views. Comments archived. March 12th. Amber's building transfer pressure. Presentation materials photographed. April 3rd. Diane's social media post. Zero acknowledgement of marriage. The data accumulated. The pattern clarified. I opened my phone, scrolled to Margaret Cho's contact. 28 years of annual reviews. Not yet. I needed more evidence, more documentation, more certainty. I was an actuary. I calculated risk. I modeled scenarios. I protected assets from catastrophic loss. The catastrophe was my own family. I kept a leather journal in my desk. I'd used it for 20 years to track important calculations. I opened it now, began taking notes in the precise handwriting I'd developed over decades of actuarial work. They thought I was weak. Thought I wouldn't notice. Thought the boring calculator dad would keep signing checks while they planned his liquidation. They'd made an error in their risk assessment. Assumed the variable would remain constant. It wouldn't. 6 months of documentation had led to this. New Year's Eve, and the trap was finally springing. The champagne fountain bubbled at 11:27 p.m. 60 guests filled the great room and spilled onto the deck, their voices rising with each glass. Catering staff circulated with hors d'oeuvres on silver trays. The fireplace crackled. Laughter spiked near the French doors. Someone's champagne glass shattered on the granite. I stood at the granite kitchen counter, positioned where I could see the entire room. Navy button-down shirt, pressed khakis. Diane had once called this outfit funeral director chic. My champagne glass sat untouched beside me. Diane moved through her social circle, touching arms, laughing at jokes, accepting compliments about the party. Felicia Brennan arrived at 11:30 p.m. Black suit, rimless glasses, leather portfolio under her arm. She scanned the room until she found Diane, then crossed to the kitchen with deliberate steps. They conferred in low voices near the refrigerator. Diane's hand on Felicia's arm, Felicia's shark smile. The portfolio stayed closed. I couldn't hear the words, but I watched Diane's shoulders relax. I took a sip of champagne. Noted the time on the mantel clock. 11:33. Tyler emerged from the guest room at 11:45 p.m. carrying his gimbal stabilizer. Supreme hoodie. Designer joggers. Phone mounted in professional rig. He positioned himself near the great room entrance, adjusting his LED lighting panels 3 times, checking the frame, shifting his weight foot to foot. His phone screen showed the streaming interface. He tapped. The red recording light activated. "What's up, guys? Tyler here, coming at you live from the lake house. Epic New Year's party. You're not gonna believe what's about to happen." I set my champagne glass on the granite counter. My hand didn't shake. The countdown began at 11:55 p.m. Guests migrated to the deck. Champagne glasses raised. 17 degrees outside. Nobody seemed to notice. Distant fireworks started across the frozen lake, early celebrations from other estates. Diane positioned herself near the champagne fountain. Felicia stood slightly behind her, portfolio now open. Tyler adjusted his camera angle to capture both of them. 3,200 people watching right now, Tyler said to his phone. "This is insane engagement. Don't forget to smash that like button." 11:59. The crowd counted down. 10, 9, 8. Diane caught my eye across the room, smiled.
7.
6, 5. Tyler's gimbal swept from the crowd to Diane to me. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Happy New Year.
Champagne corks popped. Noisemakers shrieked. Someone started singing. Old Lang Syne off key. Diane raised her glass, then set it down deliberately. "Keith," her voice carried across the room. Conversation stopped. Heads turned. I walked from the kitchen counter to the center of the great room. 60 pairs of eyes tracked my movement. Tyler's camera followed. New year, new beginning. Her arms swept wide, playing to her audience. "Felicia has something for you." Felicia stepped forward, presented the portfolio. "Keith Harrington, you're being served with divorce papers. Petition for dissolution of marriage, filed with the county clerk at 12:01 a.m., January 1st. She handed me the papers. 67 pages. I noted the weight, the precise legal formatting. Tyler narrated for his stream. Holy crap, guys. Dad's getting served at midnight. This is insane content. Cannot write this stuff. I opened the petition. The first page listed our marriage date. The second listed grounds for dissolution. The third listed temporary orders. The papers demand your immediate surrender of your wallet, all credit cards, and house keys by January 2nd, Felicia said. Her voice carried the clipped authority of someone who had done this many times. Temporary restraining orders prevent you from accessing joint accounts or selling any marital assets. You have 48 hours to vacate the lake house. Diane touched my arm. Her voice softened for the performance. Just sign here and here. Don't make a scene. You're always so reasonable. Jennifer Chen from the tennis league started clapping. Others joined. Susan Whitmore. David Park. Applause built across the deck. 3 women from Diane's tennis group surrounded her, arms around her shoulders, whispered words I couldn't hear but could read in their sympathetic head tilts. Tyler couldn't stop moving. Chat is going crazy right now. Guys, comment below what you think happens next. This is literally the craziest New Year's ever. I turned to page 2. Read the asset schedule. Page 3. The proposed settlement terms. Page 4. The custody arrangements for property division. Page 4, paragraph 2.3, temporary asset freeze. Page 7, section 5.1, immediate surrender of property access. Page 12, Exhibit A, joint account closure timeline. Amber stood in the kitchen doorway, designer cocktail dress, phone in her hand. Her thumbs moved across the screen. She smiled at something Jordan texted back, looked up at me, smiled wider. I read page 17, page 23, page 39. Tyler's chat scrolled too fast to read. Skull emojis, fire emojis, comments about how sad I looked. Diane accepted congratulations from her tennis group. It's time for both of us to move forward, find happiness. He'll understand eventually. Her friends nodded, touched her shoulder, offered support they'd been rehearsing for weeks. Praxed, I reached page 52. The temporary restraining orders. Language about asset freezes. Demands for financial disclosure within 30 days. Felicia watched me read. Her diamond earrings caught the champagne fountain lights. She was already calculating her contingency fee percentage. 33% of what she assumed would be an $8 million settlement. Page 64. The signature lines. I closed the petition. Set it on the granite counter beside my untouched champagne glass. I'll need a pen, I said. Diane produced one from her clutch, held it out with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. I uncapped the pen, turned to the signature page. The clock on the mantel showed 12:03 a.m. Tyler zoomed in on my face. He's actually signing. Dad's signing the papers. This is wild. I signed my name on the first line. Perfect penmanship. Same signature I'd been using for 35 years. Moved to the second line. Signed again. Third line. Fourth. Diane exhaled. Felicia's smile widened. Amber's texting intensified. I initialed the remaining pages where indicated. 67 signatures and initials, each one precisely placed in the designated box. The guests watched in silence now. The performance had reached its conclusion. Diane had won. I had surrendered. The narrative was complete. I set the pen on the counter beside the signed papers. The timestamp read 12:03 a.m., January 1st. Outside, distant fireworks reflected on the frozen lake. Someone popped another champagne cork. Legally significant, though no one in the room understood why yet. Tyler's live stream captured everything. The signed papers. My calm expression. Diane accepting embraces from her friends. Felicia collecting the documents with professional efficiency. Picked up my champagne glass. Took my first sip of the evening. The bubbles had gone flat. 6 months earlier, the preparation had begun on Monday, November 27th. 4 days after Thanksgiving. 3 days after I'd found Amber's spreadsheet in the guest room printer. I called Margaret Cho at 8:47 a.m. Her assistant put me through immediately. Keith, this is unexpected. Her voice carried the calm precision I'd relied on for 28 years. Our annual review isn't scheduled until January. I need to see you today. This morning, if possible. A pause. I have a 10 o'clock opening. Will that work? Yes. Should I prepare anything specific? Everything, I said. Bring everything we've ever discussed about asset protection. Another pause, longer this time. I'll have the conference room ready. I arrived at her downtown office at 9:52 a.m., carrying a leather folder. Inside, printed photographs of every page of Amber's spreadsheet, transcripts of Tyler's videos I'd saved from his channel, bank statements showing the pattern of family withdrawals, my personal ledger documenting every request, every transfer, every dismissal over the past 5 years. Margaret's assistant showed me to the conference room. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the financial district. The table could seat 12. Margaret had set up at the head with her laptop and 3 file boxes. She entered at exactly 10 o'clock, carrying a wooden tray. Traditional Korean tea service, 2 cups, a small ceramic pot. She poured for both of us, the ritual movements exact and centering. I only serve tea to clients who are grieving something real, not the ones who are angry about money. I opened my folder, spread the photographs across the conference table. 23 pages of Amber's property analysis, color-coded priority rankings, Jordan's development timeline. My buildings reduced to flip potential and contractor estimates. Margaret studied each page without touching them. Her expression didn't change. I overheard them discussing this at Thanksgiving, I said. Amber, Tyler, and Jordan. In my guest room. Planning how to convince me to transfer properties for their business deals. And you photographed the evidence instead of confronting them. I'm an actuary. I document first. She picked up her teacup, took a measured sip. 28 years, every annual review. I watched your family's entitlement grow. I've been waiting for this call since 2008. The words landed with the weight of all those annual reviews. All those gentle suggestions about protective trusts I'd filed away. All those risk assessments I'd ignored because they were family. Show me how to protect it, I said. All of it. Everything I've built. Margaret set down her tea, opened the first file box, pulled out a stack of documents 6 inches thick. Your estate contains 23 separate financial instruments, whole life insurance policies, variable annuities, irrevocable trusts, commercial property titles. Each one currently names Diane as primary beneficiary, with Amber and Tyler as contingent beneficiaries. She spread the documents across the table beside Amber's photographs. Beneficiary designations are revocable at will by the policy owner. You can change them at any time for any reason without anyone's consent or knowledge. Diane would notice if I suddenly changed everything. Not if the changes don't take effect until a triggering event occurs. Margaret pulled out her laptop, opened a document. Divorce triggered voidance clauses. The beneficiary designation remains in place until the filing of marital dissolution papers. At that moment, the designation automatically voids and the contingent beneficiary takes effect. I leaned forward, studied the legal language on her screen. The divorce filing itself triggers the protection mechanism. Exactly. They initiate the legal action that activates your defensive architecture. By the time they realize what happened, the transfers are already complete and irrevocable. My actuarial training engaged. I stood, walked to the whiteboard mounted on the conference room wall, found a marker. We need to model the scenarios, calculate probability distributions for different trigger mechanisms. I started writing. Divorce filing timestamp as primary trigger. Backup mechanisms if primary language gets challenged. Successor beneficiary designations flowing through multiple contingent paths. Margaret watched me fill the whiteboard with actuarial notation. You're already thinking in terms of redundancy and fail-safes. Every system needs backup mechanisms. What if Diane's attorney challenges the voidance language? What if a court delays the filing timestamp? What if someone argues the transfers were made under duress? Then we build protection for each scenario. She opened the second file box. But first, we need to establish the alternative beneficiary. Where do you want these assets to go if not to your family? I set down the marker, looked at the photographs of Amber's spreadsheet, Tyler's video transcripts, the evidence of their systematic exploitation, a scholarship fund, full rides for actuarial science students, first-generation college students from families earning under $45,000 annually. Margaret made notes on her laptop. A 501c3 charitable foundation. We'll need to establish it properly. Independent board of trustees. Clear mission statement. Grant making procedures. Can you recommend trustees? People from the actuarial community who would understand the mission. I know 5 who would serve. Respected professionals. None of them connected to your family. I returned to the whiteboard, started calculating. If we structure this correctly, with primary voidance triggers and multiple backup mechanisms, what's the probability Diane's attorney could successfully challenge the transfers? Margaret pulled up a legal database on her laptop, searched case law on beneficiary designations and divorce triggers. Based on precedent in this jurisdiction, assuming we draft the language properly and maintain documentation of your intent. 2% probability of successful challenge. 97.3% confidence interval. I wrote the number on the whiteboard, circled it. Acceptable risk parameters. We worked through lunch. Margaret ordered sandwiches. Neither of us ate. The conference table disappeared under policy documents, trust agreements, foundation bylaws, beneficiary designation forms. Each of the 23 instruments required individual analysis. The whole life policies with accumulated cash value, the variable annuities with guaranteed death benefits, the irrevocable life insurance trusts, the commercial property titles. Margaret drafted protective language for each one. Primary voidance clauses triggered by divorce filing. Secondary triggers if the primary language faced legal challenge. Tertiary mechanisms redirecting assets to alternate paths if both primary and secondary failed. This is more complex than most estate plans I draft for families worth $50 million, she said at 3:30 p.m. Because most families worth $50 million aren't trying to protect assets from their own children. She looked at me over her rimless glasses. Do you want to talk about that? The emotional component of what you're planning. I'm an actuary. I deal in probabilities, not emotions. You're also a father who just discovered his children. View him as a liquidation opportunity. I picked up one of Amber's spreadsheet pages. The downtown corridor properties highlighted in red. Priority. Jordan's development anchor. I taught Amber to read a balance sheet when she was 12. Showed her how to calculate return on investment. She learned well, better than I intended. And Tyler? Tyler learned that documenting someone's humiliation generates 47,000 views and social validation from strangers. I set down the spreadsheet. They didn't become this way overnight. I funded it, enabled it, wrote checks instead of setting boundaries. Margaret closed her laptop. What you're planning will destroy any possibility of reconciliation. They destroyed that possibility when they started planning my liquidation while eating the Thanksgiving turkey I prepared. She nodded, opened the third file box. Then let's make sure we do this properly. Over the next 6 months, I restructured every instrument with the same precision I applied to my professional work. Each policy required specific language. Each trust needed updated beneficiary designations. Each property title had to be amended. Margaret drafted the Harrington Educational Foundation Charter, recruited the Board of Trustees, filed the 501c3 paperwork, established the grant-making procedures, but continued attending family events. Wrote a check for Tyler's new camera equipment in January. Approved Amber's request for business expense reimbursement in March. Smiled at Diane's country club parties in April. The facade required discipline. Every family dinner where I said nothing about the restructuring. Every request I fulfilled while knowing the money would be the last they'd receive. Every casual dismissal I absorbed while embedding another protective mechanism. Tyler posted his cringe boomer hobby video in January. I saved it to my hard drive with timestamp and view count. Added it to my documentation file. 4 months into the restructuring, Amber called Tuesday morning. Lunch at the downtown bistro. 1 o'clock. I want to discuss the Maple Street building. She opened a presentation folder, showed me financial projections. Jordan's development group needs an anchor property. I've run the numbers. If you transfer it as early inheritance, the tax advantages work in everyone's favor. I'm 58, I said. Early inheritance seems premature. It's strategic planning. She touched my arm, warmth calculated to persuade. You taught me to think ahead. This is me applying your lessons.
I'll consider it.
Her smile tightened. Jordan's timeline is pressing. The development window closes in 60 days. I'll consider it, I repeated. She left the lunch annoyed. I photographed her presentation materials before returning them. Restructured that property's title the following week with divorce. Triggered voidance language. Diane made jokes about my replaceability at the country club in April. I handed her the coat. Drove home. Updated another beneficiary designation form. Margaret worked late hours drafting protective language that anticipated every legal challenge. Avoidance clauses with redundant triggers. Contingent beneficiary paths that flowed through multiple mechanisms. Documentation of intent that would withstand scrutiny. The final week of December, I created the binder. 847 pages. Every restructured policy. Every amended trust. Every updated beneficiary designation. Every foundation document. Color-coded tabs separating the 23 instruments. Sticky notes marking the voidance clauses. Positioned it beneath the granite kitchen counter on December the 31st, hours before the party. The spot where my hand would find it at 12:03 a.m. The trap was set. The mechanisms were embedded. The protection was irrevocable. I waited for them to trigger it themselves. I set the pen on the counter beside the signed papers. 60 seconds after the New Year's countdown ended, I reached beneath the counter. The binder waited beneath the granite counter where I'd positioned it 6 hours earlier. 8 pounds of actuarial architecture in a 3-ring binding. I lifted it with both hands and set it on the counter with deliberate precision. The thunk cut through champagne toasts and laughter. Conversations near the counter paused. Diane raised her champagne glass to her tennis group. Felicia collected the signed divorce papers with professional efficiency. already calculating her contingency fee percentage. Tyler's phone showed numbers climbing. His eyes stayed locked on the screen. The guests on the deck congratulated Diane on her bravery. Nobody was paying attention to me yet. I opened the binder to the first color-coded tab. Blue for whole life policies. The pages showed beneficiary designation forms with precise legal language and timestamp documentation. I restructured the beneficiary designations across all 23 financial instruments 6 months ago. My voice carried the same measured tone I used in client presentations. Your divorce filing at 12:01 a.m. triggered automatic voidance clauses. Diane lowered her champagne glass, turned toward me. Her smile hadn't faded yet. I transferred every asset you believe you are claiming to the Harrington Educational Foundation 72 hours ago upon filing of these papers. The transfers are irrevocable. Champagne glasses froze halfway to lips. The woman beside Diane stopped mid-laugh. Tyler's livestream audio filled the sudden quiet. His chat exploded with comments scrolling too fast to read. Wait, what? Did he just say charity? This is insane. I turned to the tab marked trigger mechanisms, showed Felicia the whole life policy redesignation language. Section 4.2, paragraph 3. The voidance clause activated upon legal filing of marital dissolution proceedings. Felicia's professional confidence cracked. She grabbed the binder from my hands, started speed reading the first page, second page, third. Diane's smile held, but her voice sharpened. Keith, this isn't funny. What foundation? The actuarial tables predicted this outcome with 97.3% confidence. I met her eyes. You gambled on the 2.7. Bad odds. Felicia turned to page 10, page 15. Her diamond earrings caught the light as her head snapped up. The color drained from her face. Her contingency fee case had just become worthless. No assets to claim meant no percentage to collect. Tyler's mouth opened, but no narration came out. His hand kept the camera steady on autopilot, while his face went blank. Amber pushed through the crowd from the kitchen doorway. What's he saying? What foundation? I turned to the tab-marked exhibits, found the section labeled C, pulled out the photographs of her 47-tab spreadsheet. Your property liquidation analysis. Photographed November 24th at 11:23 a.m. Time-stamped documentation of premeditated planning. Amber stared at the pages. Her face went pale. She pulled out her phone, started texting Jordan with shaking hands. The downtown corridor properties you highlighted as priority for Jordan's development deal. I kept my voice level. They transferred to the foundation on December 29th. The charitable board accepted them for community use rather than commercial flip. Her phone slipped from her hand, hit the granite with a crack that made 3 people flinch. The screen spiderwebbed. Diane grabbed the binder from Felicia, started flipping through pages. This can't be legal. You can't just give away our assets without my consent. Beneficiary designations are revocable at will by the policy owner. I turned to the legal precedent section. I structured the voidance clauses 6 months ago. Your divorce filing activated them. The law protects those who use it properly. Felicia found her voice. I need to review this. All of it. Every page. 847 pages. Color-coded tabs for the 23 separate instruments. Each one contains primary voidance triggers, backup mechanisms, and successor beneficiary paths. The guests backed away from the counter. Conversations died. Some pulled out phones to film. The social calculus was shifting. Diane had nothing left to offer them. Tyler's live stream chat scrolled with new comments. Your dad is a legend. They got what they deserved. This is the best content I've ever seen. Diane's champagne glass trembled. A drop spilled on her cocktail dress. 35 years. You're throwing away 35 years over money? Over respect. I closed the binder. You threw it away when you planned this ambush. I just documented the pattern and protected what I built. Felicia Speed read pages 30 through 50. She set down the binder, looked at Diane, shook her head once. Diane's face went white. Amber picked up her phone from the floor. Read Jordan's response to her panic texts. Started crying. Tyler kept filming. His face showed confusion rather than comprehension. He didn't understand the financial terminology, but he recognized disaster. The clock on the mantel showed 12:15 a.m. Distant fireworks had stopped. The party was over. I walked to my home office. The vintage slide rule collection waited on custom walnut shelving. 73 instruments dating from 1923 to 975. The leather carrying case waited where I'd left it that afternoon, already packed. Diane followed me to the doorway. We can fix this. We can work something out. The Foundation's independent board has already begun grant-making activities. First scholarships award in 6 months. 8 first-generation students pursuing actuarial science. I picked up the carrying case. The legacy I wanted. Not the one you planned. I walked past her. Through the great room where guests pretended not to stare. Past Tyler still filming with his phone. Past Amber crying in the kitchen. Past Felicia, reading the binder with professional horror on her face. The front door opened to 17-degree air. My car waited in the driveway, parked where I'd positioned it for quick departure. The clock showed 12:47 a.m. when I pulled out. The lakeside estate disappeared in my rearview mirror. Distant lights from other properties reflected on frozen water. My downtown apartment was 4 miles away. 1 bedroom, industrial carpeting, builder-grade fixtures. 720 square feet that cost less than the lake house monthly maintenance. I texted Margaret Cho from the parking lot. Triggers activated successfully. Family processing now. See you at 8 a.m. A response came 30 seconds later. Tea will be ready. Bring documentation of their reactions if Tyler's live stream is still public. I carried the slide rule case upstairs. Set it on the empty desk in the living room. The apartment contained nothing but white walls and new carpet. No photos, no memories, no invisible ledger of resentments. The silence felt clean. I woke at 7:30 a.m. in my downtown apartment. The security camera feed on my laptop showed the lake house driveway, empty except for Diane's car and Felicia's sedan. Margaret's arrival would happen soon. I didn't need to be there to know what came next. Margaret Cho's sedan pulled into the lake house driveway at 7:58 a.m. I watched from my apartment 4 miles away through the security camera feed I'd never disabled. The same cameras that had captured Tyler's live stream now showed me the aftermath. She carried her leather portfolio and the wooden tea tray. Navy suit, pressed collar. January 1st was a federal holiday. But Margaret didn't take holidays when clients needed her. I closed the laptop. What happened next didn't require my presence. Margaret found them in the great room. Diane sat on the leather sofa, still wearing last night's cocktail dress. The fabric had wrinkled across her lap. Her foundation showed cracks at the corners of her eyes. Felicia occupied the armchair, the binder open across her lap. Amber paced near the French doors, phone pressed to her ear. Tyler slumped in the corner, his camera equipment scattered around him like debris. Margaret set the tea tray on the coffee table, arranged the cups with the same ritual precision she used in her office. Poured only 2 cups. Offered one to Diane. The second she kept for herself. No tea for Amber, Tyler, or Felicia. The distinction was deliberate. Traditional Korean tea, she said. My father would approve. He always said, grief deserves respect. Diane took the cup with shaking hands. The beneficiary designations were restructured 6 months ago. Margaret settled into the chair across from Diane. Every instrument contains voidance language, triggered by filing of marital dissolution proceedings. Your attorney filed at 12:01 a.m. The Foundation's independent board accepted the assets at 9 a.m. on December 29th. Felicia looked up from the binder. There has to be a challenge mechanism. Undue influence. Lack of capacity. Something. Is 58 years old, chief actuary at a respected firm with documented mental competence and clear intent. He restructured his own beneficiary designations using standard legal mechanisms. There is no viable challenge. He can reverse it, Amber said. Her voice cracked. He established the foundation, can dissolve it. Margaret shook her head. The foundation has an independent board of 5 trustees from the actuarial community. Keith has no control over their decisions. They've already begun grant-making activities. 8 scholarship recipients have been notified. Reversing the transfers would harm those students. Diane set down her teacup. 35 years. He threw away 35 years. You filed for divorce at midnight on New Year's Eve in front of 60 witnesses. Margaret's voice remained calm. The actuarial tables predicted this outcome with 97.3% confidence. Keith calculated the probabilities. You chose to gamble. Tyler stood. His phone hung loose in his hand. The live stream. Can I delete it? The New Year's video had been viewed 847,000 times across all platforms by the end of January, downloaded by dozens of accounts, shared across platforms. You documented your family's premeditated humiliation. That evidence is permanent. The number landed like a physical blow. Tyler sat back down. 2 weeks after New Year's Eve, Diane's country club dues payment bounced. The membership office called her cell phone at 10:23 a.m. She had 48 hours to settle the account or face suspension. She called her tennis partners, left voicemails. None of them called back. The following Tuesday, she arrived for her regular court time. The pro shop manager intercepted her at the entrance. Her membership had been suspended pending payment. She could not access the facilities. Jennifer Chen walked past with her tennis bag, made eye contact, kept walking. Diane stood in the parking lot for 17 minutes before driving home. Her hands shook when she tried to start the car. The pattern accelerated. Lunch reservations at the club dining room were quietly canceled. Her name disappeared from committee rosters. The charity gala she'd chaired for 6 years found a replacement coordinator. Tables that had welcomed her for 28 years suddenly had no available seats. 28 years. Tyler's subscriber count dropped. Sponsors pulled their contracts. The comment section filled with variations of the same message. Your family got what they deserved. You're disgusting. This is karma. He deleted the New Year's livestream. It reappeared on 17 reaction channels within hours. His camera equipment lease required monthly payments he could no longer make. The recovery agent arrived on February 14th. Tyler filmed them loading $40,000 of gear into a van. He filmed the repossession on his phone, posted it with the caption, "Rock bottom." His hand didn't shake. His voice stayed level. 800 views. Amber's downtown development collapsed in stages. Jordan's business partners withdrew when the anchor properties transferred to the foundation. The zoning variance application was denied. The construction timeline evaporated. Jordan filed for divorce in March. His attorney cited irreconcilable differences. The filing included documentation of Amber's inheritance planning as evidence of financial misrepresentation. She'd promised him property she never controlled. The State Real Estate Board opened an ethics investigation in April. The complaint included Amber's property spreadsheet, time-stamped November 24th, planning to sell assets she didn't own, misrepresenting her access to capital. Her license was suspended, pending the investigation's conclusion. The lake house transferred to foundation ownership on March 15th. The board voted to convert it to a retreat center for scholarship recipients. The great room where Diane had served me divorce papers at midnight now hosted orientation sessions for first-generation students. The champagne fountain was gone. The foundation installed study tables instead. My downtown properties became affordable housing and small business incubators. The opposite of Amber's luxury conversion plans, Diane moved to a one-bedroom apartment in May. 700 square feet. Builder-grade fixtures. The kitchen had laminate counters instead of granite. The bathroom mirror showed her reflection without the soft lighting she'd installed at the lake house. She took a sales position at the boutique on Shaker Square, where she'd once spent thousands on designer clothes. Her former friends shopped there, walked past her register without acknowledgement. The social death hurt more than the financial loss. 6 months after New Year's Eve, I was fully settled in my permanent apartment. 1 bedroom, industrial carpeting, builder-grade fixtures. My phone buzzed at 6:47 p.m. Security camera notification. 3 people at my apartment building entrance. I opened the feed. Diane, Amber, and Tyler stood in the institutional beige hallway. Diane pressed against the institutional beige walls. Amber stood beside her, arms crossed. Tyler held his phone, but wasn't filming. For once. Diane pressed the intercom button. Her face showed 6 months of consequences. "Keith, please. We need to talk." I didn't respond. Amber leaned close to the camera. "The foundation can reverse the transfers. You can fix this." Tyler held his phone but wasn't filming. "Dad, come on. We're family." Margaret Cho's voice came through the speaker from inside the building. She'd arrived 10 minutes earlier, knowing they would come. "The transfers are irrevocable. The foundation's board operates independently. Keith has no authority to reverse their decisions. Irrevocable means irrevocable under state statutes regarding trust law. The foundation's independent board operates under 501.3 regulations." "There has to be something," Diane said. "Some mechanism, some procedure. The law is clear." Margaret's tone carried the patience of someone explaining basic concepts to children. "You initiated the legal action that triggered the protective mechanisms. The consequences are permanent." I closed the laptop. The camera feed showed 3 people pressed against institutional beige walls. Margaret's voice explaining legal terms. They should have understood 6 months earlier. I didn't watch the rest. The actuarial tables had predicted this outcome with 97.3% confidence. Like what you're hearing, show it with a like and a comment. 12 months after New Year's Eve, I lived in 720 square feet. Industrial carpeting, builder-grade fixtures, galley kitchen barely wide enough for 1 person. Enough. The vintage slide rule collection sat on walnut shelving I'd installed myself. 73 instruments dating from 1923 to 1975. The lake house belonged to the foundation. They'd converted the great room into a study center for scholarship recipients. The champagne fountain was gone. My corner office on the 47th floor hadn't changed. Same whiteboards covered in actuarial formulas. Same team of 12 managing high net worth portfolios. Colleagues nodded when we passed in hallways. Jenkins stopped me once near the elevators. Brief nod. No questions about the divorce. Just acknowledgement that said he understood. Professional respect operated differently than family obligation. Margaret called the previous April. The State Bar Association wants me to present a case study at their annual conference. Anonymized, obviously. About the triggers. About defensive estate planning executed with actuarial precision. The title on her presentation slides. Defensive estate planning as actuarial precision. A masterclass, the conference program called it. She presented to 200 estate attorneys in a hotel ballroom. I watched from the back row. 200 estate attorneys stood and applauded when she finished explaining the voidance clause architecture. The foundation awarded its first scholarships in June. 8 first-generation students pursuing actuarial science. Full rides, including living expenses. The ceremony happened in the same hotel where Margaret had presented. I sat in the back row again, watched a 19-year-old from Cleveland accept her award with shaking hands. Her father managed a hardware store. Her mother kept the books at their kitchen table. I watched her hands shake as she accepted the award. The students would never know about Thanksgiving dinner, or Amber's spreadsheet, or Tyler's Livestream. They'd know only that someone believed education mattered more than entitlement. Tyler's video stayed online. 847,000 views. The comments had shifted. Early ones, skull emojis. Okay, boomer. Recent ones, this dad is a legend. Never underestimate the quiet ones. The realization had settled months ago. The family I'd thought existed never actually had. Diane, Amber, and Tyler never came back to my door. They never reconciled. I didn't wait for them to. Evenings, I performed calculations on my 1957 Kerfel and Esse slide rule. The slide moved under my thumb. Scales aligned. 4 significant figures without a battery. The same precision that built the Apollo program. The mechanical precision satisfied something digital tools couldn't touch. The physical movement of the slide. The tactile feedback. The requirement to understand principles rather than just to push buttons. The actuarial tables had predicted this outcome with 97.3% confidence. They gambled on the 2.7. Bad odds for anyone betting against a man who calculates risk for a living. Outside, someone walked a dog past my window. Normal evening sounds. No champagne fountains. No performance. Just quiet.